There's something most people get completely wrong about solitude. They see someone who chooses to be alone and immediately assume loneliness. They see someone sitting quietly at a café, walking solo through a park, spending their Saturday night at home, and they think something must be broken. But here's what nobody talks about. There's a universe of difference between choosing solitude and suffering isolation. And if you don't understand that difference, you'll never understand some of the most self-aware people you'll ever meet. Picture two people, same age, same city, same Friday afternoon when the weekend stretches ahead like an empty canvas. Both have no plans. Both will spend most of their weekend alone. But watch what happens next, because this is where everything diverges. The first person gets home, changes into comfortable clothes, and feels something like relief wash over them. They've been thinking about this weekend all week. There's that book they've been wanting to finish, the recipe they've been meaning to try, maybe a long morning walk through the neighborhood before it gets too crowded. Saturday morning arrives and they're up early, not from anxiety, but from genuine anticipation. They take that walk, letting their thoughts wander freely. They come home and start that project they've been excited about, completely absorbed, losing track of time in the best possible way. Sunday afternoon, a text comes through. Brunch invitation, group of friends. They read it, genuinely consider it for a moment, check in with themselves, and decline. Not because they dislike these people, but because they genuinely want this quiet time more. They send a warm, "Thanks for thinking of me, need some recharge time this weekend," and return to their movie, their book, their peaceful afternoon. Zero guilt, zero FOMO. Monday morning rolls around and they feel energized, clear-headed, ready for the week ahead. Now watch the second person. Same Friday afternoon, but when they get home, there's a different quality to the silence. They tell themselves they're fine with having no plans, maybe even prefer it. But the phone sits on the coffee table like a small accusation. They check it more than they'd admit, scrolling, not really engaging with anything, just filling the space where connection should be. They start a project, put it down. Start another, lose interest. Saturday drags. Sunday arrives and that same brunch invitation comes through. They want to go, desperately want to go, but something stops them. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's pride, maybe they've convinced themselves they don't need people anyway. They see the brunch photos on social media later, everyone laughing, and they tell themselves they hate brunch, too crowded, too loud, too much. But Sunday night hits and they feel emptier than they did Friday evening. Monday morning comes and they're exhausted despite doing nothing all weekend. If this is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button. Content like this gets buried under algorithms that prioritize noise over nuance. Your subscription matters.
Here's where it gets interesting, where the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Look at how these two people use social media, because it reveals everything about what's actually happening beneath the surface. The first person barely posts. Their feed is sparse, maybe something meaningful once in a while, a sunset that genuinely moved them, a thought they wanted to capture. They scroll through social media quickly, not lingering, not comparing their Saturday night to anyone else's highlight reel. It's a tool, nothing more. They can delete the apps for weeks and not even notice they're gone, because their sense of worth isn't tied to how many people witnessed their existence that day.
But that second person, they post differently. They're trying to broadcast that they're fine, they're independent, they don't need anyone. But underneath every carefully crafted caption is a quiet hope that someone will reach out, will see them, will make them feel less invisible. They check the notifications constantly, refreshing. Every like feels like proof of existence. Every hour without a like feels like confirmation of their worst fear, that they don't matter. They can't delete those apps because they're the window to feeling connected, even if that connection is paper thin and ultimately hollow. And here's what people miss, what makes all the difference. The first person chose solitude from a place of fullness. They're alone because they want to be, because they've learned that their own company is valuable, that silence is where they process, where they create, where they return to themselves. Their aloneness isn't a statement about other people, it's a statement about self-knowledge. They know what they need, and they're not afraid to claim it. There's no desperation in their solitude. There's peace. The second person didn't choose isolation, they ended up there. Maybe through social anxiety that makes every interaction feel like walking through fire. Maybe through rejection that taught them it's safer to expect nothing. Maybe through comparison that convinced them they're not interesting enough, funny enough, worthy enough to be included. Their aloneness isn't peace, it's protection. Not the healthy kind that preserves energy, but the desperate kind that prevents more pain. They're not avoiding people because they don't need connection. They're avoiding people because needing connection and not having it hurts too much. Psychologists call this the distinction between solitude and loneliness, and it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in mental health. Solitude is a chosen state of being alone that feels restorative, that fills you up rather than drains you. Loneliness is the painful awareness that your social connections are inadequate, that there's a gap between the relationships you have and the relationships you desperately want. You can be surrounded by people and feel crushing loneliness. You can be completely alone and feel perfect solitude. The difference isn't about how many people are around you. It's about whether your aloneness is coming from choice or from lack.
Stay with me, because here's where most people mess this up entirely. They see someone choosing solitude and they try to fix them. They push invitations, they guilt trip about isolation, they warn about becoming a hermit. They don't understand that for some people, being alone is how they stay healthy, how they maintain their mental clarity, how they keep their energy from being completely depleted by a world that demands constant performance. These people aren't broken, they're not missing out, they're not lonely. They're cultivating something most people never learn, the ability to be content in their own presence. But the person who's actually lonely needs something completely different. They don't need to be pushed further into isolation with learn to love being alone advice. They need to understand that connection is a fundamental human need, that wanting relationships isn't weakness, that the ache for belonging is valid and human and nothing to be ashamed of. They need to know that the walls they've built to protect themselves from rejection are the same walls keeping out the connection they're desperately craving. Not because they're antisocial or broken, but because somewhere along the way they learned that needing people leads to pain. Here's the beautiful part that most people completely miss. The person who genuinely prefers solitude, they can connect when they choose to. They have that capacity. They can show up at that brunch, engage fully, enjoy the connection, then return home and recharge without any guilt or existential crisis about whether they're living life wrong. Their ability to be alone doesn't mean they can't connect. It means they don't need constant connection to feel whole. They move between solitude and connection fluidly, taking what serves them, releasing what doesn't. The lonely person can't do that. Every social interaction feels like a performance they're failing at. Every gathering confirms their fear that they don't belong. Every attempt at connection that doesn't work out becomes more evidence that they're fundamentally unlovable. They withdraw, not because they want to, but because trying hurts more than not trying. Their isolation isn't a preference, it's a wound that keeps reopening. And the tragedy is that the more they withdraw, the harder connection becomes, creating a cycle that feels impossible to break. So if you're someone who genuinely prefers being alone, who feels energized by solitude, who can decline invitations without guilt, and spend weekends in your own company without that hollow ache, know this: you're not broken, you're not missing out, you're not lonely just because you're alone. You've learned something valuable about yourself, about what you need to function, about where you find peace. Don't let anyone convince you that there's something wrong with choosing your own company over constant social stimulation. That's not loneliness.
That's self-knowledge.
But if you're the other person, if your weekends feel empty, even when you tell yourself you prefer it this way, if you check your phone hoping for texts that don't come, if social media makes you feel more isolated instead of less, if your aloneness feels like punishment instead of choice, listen carefully. You're not broken either. You're lonely. And loneliness isn't a character flaw. It's a signal. It's your body telling you that you need connection, that humans are wired for belonging, that the isolation isn't serving you, even if it feels safer than risking rejection. The walls keeping people out or the same walls keeping you trapped. The difference between solitude and loneliness isn't about how much time you spend alone. It's about whether that aloneness nourishes you or starves you. It's about whether you're moving toward yourself or running from others. It's about whether your solitude is a sanctuary you've built or a prison you can't escape. And knowing which one you're experiencing, being honest about whether you're choosing peace or hiding from pain, that's the first step toward actually living the life you need. So, the next time someone tells you that everyone needs people or everyone needs alone time, remember this: both can be true, but not for everyone in the same way. Some people find themselves in solitude, others lose themselves in isolation. Some people recharge alone and connect when they choose. Others ache alone and fear connection even when they crave it. The key isn't choosing one or the other. The key is knowing which one you actually are, beneath all the stories you tell yourself, beneath all the defenses you've built. Because you can't heal loneliness by forcing solitude, and you can't fix preference by demanding connection. You can only find peace when you're honest about what you actually need. And maybe that's the most important kind of self-knowledge there is.